Alright, so I've been noticing that my coolant level's been dropping a little bit every day. I'll top it off with some distilled water here. And I couldn't quite tell where it was leaking out from, but I've been looking under here and I can see there's some drippage. And it looks like it's coming from the water pump, which would be common. When a water pump goes out, it has a weep hole that the water comes out of, or maybe even the seal. So we'll look into that. But it's always important to keep your coolant and your oil topped off. Those are the two things that usually go wrong on these cars. Those are the things you always need to pay attention to, because if the coolant drops enough, you'll warp the head, you could overheat the engine and blow a head gasket. And the oil, of course, if you run low on oil, spin a bearing or get a rod knock, or just seize the engine. So it's really important to keep those two things always under a watchful eye, especially with the higher mileage cars, especially the Mustangs. So we'll look into that next and we'll see what's going on here. Okay, so I have the car lifted up and supported with a jack under there, and looking under, I can see it's wet down there, dripping, and I can kind of tell it's coming from behind the water pump. So the first thing I'm going to do is, with the drive belt still on, the serpentine belt on the pulley, I'm going to break those water pump bolts loose and get a better look behind it. So to make a little more room, I just took the shaker off real quick. It's real easy. Two 13mm bolts going those eye holes there, bolt into the side of the shaker. Just some long 13s there, and you don't have to really move the shaker. You don't have to disconnect it down here and just move it over to the side. Now we can see a lot better down in there. Alright, so I got the pulley off, and looking down in here you can see it's really wet right underneath there. This is where the pulley was. And you can see as I spin the water pump, there's water there, so it's probably the water pump. So I took the blue Mach 1 on a nice little drive and got a brand new water pump. Alright, so got the old one off. It was just 4 bolts. Pried it out, and you can see this little ring here on the top. That's where it was leaking. That seal, or kind of like a freeze plug. And it's really simple. I just put the new one on and started driving the bolts in. And if I could do it over again, the coolant in this car was really new because it has a newer radiator in it. And if I noticed what I was doing and I could look back on it, I would have hurried and taken out the old pump and then put the new one right in the hole real quick, because it plugs it pretty easy and then you don't lose as much coolant. Okay, so burping the system here. Got the cap off. This is where you want to burp it from. I had mine off just yesterday, but it's kind of frozen and it's been stripped out, so I'm just going to leave it. But that's where you want to burp the system on a 4-valve. So this is what I'm going to do for now. Keep adding water. The pressure will force the water up into the top of the block. Keep adding some until it takes it, and when you see it bubbling, that's burping it. So that's what we want. Okay, so make sure that the temperature doesn't go up too high. That'll let you know if everything's going well. Make sure to run the heater core, because there's coolant that goes through the heater core behind the dash, and that coolant needs to be accounted for as you're filling up and topping off the system. Alright, so about 10-15 minutes of driving, highway speed, everything's good. Temperature's nice and cool. Still running the heat. Make sure that the heater core has fluid in it, that the system has all the coolant flowing through everything. And I checked the coolant level when I stopped a minute ago, and it was still topped off, so we're good to go. There we have it. Brand new water pump installed, belt's back on. Shaker's on. A little dirty. It's daily driver. Anyway, coolant's topped off and we're in good shape.